This is Texas Radio Hall of Famer Mitch Carr. Glen Ivey began his career in radio at the tender age of 18. And what a prodigy he must have been. A program director by the age of 20, Lubbock's KSEL set national records by a commanding 55% ratings share of the market. That kind of performance got him noticed by the big boys, and KTHT Radio in Houston wasted no time recruiting him. Glen was one of the youngest personalities on the air in the Bayou City, and KTHT flourished thanks to his contributions. Hoping to expand his experience as a manager, he accepted the offer of Hall of Famer Tony Bridge and moved to East Texas as operations director of KHER and KLUE. Taking 13 years to hone his skills benefited him greatly when Glen was hired by the fledgling Metro Traffic in Dallas and eventually became their national program director. His good work was not only heard, but seen as Glen went on to create the TV industry's first computer-generated traffic graphics. Glen kept great company along the way, noticing the talents of up-and-coming broadcasters like Larry Thompson, Scott Sparks, and Scott Latorno. That eye for talent continued later in his career as he helped to grow the careers of Metro Traffic anchors and now Houston TV mainstays Dominique Saxa, Lanny Griffith, and Darby Douglas. He's been recognized by the TAB, is a recipient of their Steve Perringer Award. His excellence in investigative reporting earned him the Headliners Club Award. TSN honored him with the Porter Randall Award, as well as countless accolades from United Press International and the Associated Press. In 2015, he celebrated 50 years in the biz. Earlier this year, Glen and his wife Celeste celebrated 50 years of marriage, and together they have relocated to the Texas Hill Country. While technically retired, he still dabbles in voiceover work and web design for local businesses. Allow me to be the first to congratulate Glen Ivey, a 2016 inductee of the Texas Radio Hall of Fame.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all of those of you who voted for me and supported me in the nominations. I'd like to thank my wife, Celeste. As mentioned, we're celebrating close to 51 years now. She could not be here today, but I know she wanted to be. My son, Greg, and his wife, Monica, have joined our table over there, and they're here, and they've stayed away from broadcasting completely, taking my advice. My career, like a lot of others, involves a lot of luck. And I'd like to thank all of those who helped me, starting off with when I was a teenager, calling in radio stations in Lubbock. Gene Price, who later went on to L.A., and Dave Tucker, who spent a lot of time here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They encouraged me. My high school friend, Buddy Fraser, who's here, had a home studio back in the early 60s, and he let me practice in that studio with my pretend radio station, interviewing kids on the sidewalk with a program we called Patio Party. I'd like to thank KSEL's Bill McAllister, who hired me and later made me PD and gave me the opportunity to work with great folks like Bill and Lou D., Paul Bean, Hall of Famer Misty Fincher, and my friend Ira McCormick, who were on the air staff. Bill, Lou, and Paul should be considered for sure in next year's nominations. After all, Bill McAllister has a park named after him. Not many of us in this business can say that we have a city park named after us. He passed away when he was mayor of Lubbock, a quite successful broadcaster, and his son Greg continues in Corpus Christi. Thanks to the late Hall of Fame broadcaster Tony Bridge for 13 years at KLUE in Longview, where so many soon-to-be great broadcasters got their start or got a little boost. You heard some of the names. I'd like to mention more of them, and I'm sure there are many more that I could have left out. But my thanks to Larry Thompson, who's sitting with us here today. I didn't let him use his own name. I said Thompson's too common, so use your middle name. And he was known as Larry James for a while in the broadcasting business. Jim Lago, who was inducted today. Charles Hadlock with NBC News. Scott Letourneau, John McCarty, future Hall of Famer Scott Sparks, who's celebrating 29 years of afternoon drive in Houston. And by the way, Dave Ward says that's no big deal. I was at KTHT Demand Radio 79 when Dave started anchoring at Channel 13. And what an accomplishment that is. I'd like to thank others, including Wayne Harrison, Jim Chase, Steve McCurdy, Jim Allen, Gary Mason, John Hale, all of these from a little 1,000-watt daytimer in Longview, Texas. So small-town radio can definitely contribute to the big markets. Sorry that Tony Bridge isn't here today to see Jim Lago and myself inducted. Next year, perhaps the late John McCarty can join us. A lot of you know John. He worked in this market. I had the opportunity to hire John 3 times at KLUE in Longview when he first came to Texas, at Metro Traffic in Dallas, and later Traffic Patrol in Dallas. A big thanks to 19 years with David Saperstein, who hired me to run Metro's Dallas operations and later to oversee the introduction of computers into the traffic business. And David, I would like for you to consider next year, for those of you who are filling out ballots for the Hall of Fame. I got to tell you a true story, and not that the others aren't true, but while sitting in the transmitter at KLUE fixing it after a lightning strike in 1980, I dropped one of those little tweaker screwdrivers that engineers have. They have a little green handle. I think they're made by Excel. It landed an inch from my foot as I was sitting on the transformer, and it exploded like a firecracker. And I realized the safety interlock was bypassed on this fancy new solid-state transmitter that Tony had bought. I extracted myself as carefully as an Olympic gymnast. But that screwdriver had saved my life, and I started carrying one for luck. Years later in Los Angeles, passing the mailroom where Metro shared offices with one of our LA affiliates, a guy was bent over the mailroom lock fiddling with a straightened paperclip. I said, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" He looked up and said, "The Eagle has landed. Our paychecks are locked up in there and I want to go home." I looked at him and I said, "Who are you?" He turned and said, "I'm Robert W. Morgan. Who the hell are you?" I said, "I'm Glen Ivey. Would you like to borrow my little green screwdriver?" Thank you all. I appreciate very much this honor, and I appreciate the opportunity to work with others to try to get more qualified candidates into the Texas Radio Hall of Fame. Thanks.